Hello. So I know I said I wouldn't do another video, but I've got 10 minutes free on my little break, so I thought I'd jump on and try and explain and understand what's going on in the world of Newcastle United in the last 48 hours, enjoying the last bit of the sunshine here down south where we are staying. I had to go and pick up my little girl's shoes because we left them at a family member's. I mean, look how cute they are, oh, bless. And I just thought I'd try and take the next 10 minutes to really dive into what has been a crazy few days when it comes to Newcastle United and transfers. Of course, it surrounds Alexander Isak, it surrounds Hugo Ekitike, who now looks like he's joining Liverpool, and really leaves the question about where Newcastle United go next, because for all the drama and all the soap opera that's gone on in the last few days, Newcastle United still need to go out and get these targets that they were chasing. They need the striker, they need the centre-back. Can they get James Trafford over the line? And we can look back and we can laugh at Liverpool's supposed power play and their £120 million inquiry into Alexander Isak and how they've gone now after Ekitike maybe paid a little bit more. We can delve into that and analyse that, but the bottom line is Newcastle can't get distracted, and they now need to move on to targets who may or may not be better than Ekitike. Personally, if Frank Wissa is the man to come through the door, and I know people question that because of his age, and of course it's going to cost a big fee. Is he better than Ekitike right now? I would say Premier League wise, yes, because obviously he's played in the Premier League, he's got that experience, 19 goals last season. I think he's a bit more of a guarantee than Ekitike to hit the ground running. Of course, you know, in the long term and into the future, Ekitike is probably going to be one of the best in the world. But we've seen those players arrive in the Premier League and ultimately fail. Big price tags doesn't necessarily mean top quality players. And I had my doubts over Ekitike because he'd only had really one prolific season in the last 3 or 4 great season last campaign in the Bundesliga, but I ideally for that amount of money would have liked another season and a bag full of goals. Of course, that means his price tag will then probably rise to plus 100 million. So it's easy to see why Newcastle and Liverpool have gone after him. But it now looks like he is going to Liverpool. Newcastle have pulled out of that deal anyway. You question whether it was a bit of agent play from Ekitike. Was it always designed to get Liverpool moving and into gear to come to the table, regardless of what happened with Alexander Isak? Who knows? But that it will now be the 3rd time he's turned Newcastle United down. Obviously, they'll never return for him. We just have to make sure that their first home game, Monday night football, that is against Liverpool. We need to make sure that he not only understands what he's missing in terms of joining this great football club and the atmosphere, but also on the pitch. Let's go out and beat Liverpool once again and maybe show that he made the wrong decision. The question of whether Newcastle United go next now, it was a few weeks ago that were linked to Wissa. Do you know what? For the life of me, I keep calling him Frank Wissa, and everyone in the office has to keep reminding me it's not Frank Wissa, it's Johan Wissa, and I think I've already called him Frank in the video. So Johan Wissa, I don't know who Frank Wissa is. It's obviously a mixture between him and Thomas Frank. So apologies. Johan Wissa seems to be the main target. I'm a big fan. I said this last week on the video with Sam Mulner. I'm a big fan. I think he could really be a good addition for Newcastle United if the price is right. Now, £50 million is a little bit steep. I don't think Brentford will get that. But of course, if they sell Bryan Mbeumo to Manchester United, and Manchester United have now come back to the table with a bigger bid, maybe Johan Wissa doesn't go. So Newcastle are going to have to move quickly. Tottenham are in the mix as well. Nottingham Forest, he reportedly wants to go and join Thomas Frank at Tottenham. So Newcastle will have to get their biggest sales pitch on the go. But I think he could be a really good addition. I mean, 19 goals last season, worked really well with Mbeumo, so Alanga could fit into that role and provide the assists and the crosses and what have you. And I know a lot of people are turning their noses up at this, mainly because of his age. He's 28, he'll turn 29 in October, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. We know Newcastle United's overarching transfer strategy is to sign players who are under 24 and look to the future, but I think you need a bit of experience in that squad, especially with the Champions League campaign coming up. And I think 28, 29, look, if that's over the hill, then goodness me, I'm well past it. And yes, it's a lot of money, but if they can get the price down to anything under 45, 40, I don't think that's the worst deal, especially if he can hit the ground running and score 12, 15 goals next season and help share the load with Alexander Isak. So I think, like I say, this deal could be really good for Newcastle United if they can get the right price. Other people linked Benjamin Sesko, who has been touted for big moves across Europe, and I'm a little bit wary getting drawn into this one because you feel it could end up like Ekitike and could another team be brought to the table with the fear of Newcastle United coming in for this man. I mean, look, his goal scoring record, brilliant. I think it was 17 or 22 goals last season for Leipzig. He's apparently got a release clause which is about 80 million euros, so about 70 million pounds. But he's been linked to Arsenal, he's been linked to Liverpool, been linked to Manchester United. But so far, excuse me, no one's taken the bite. He's been linked to a move to Saudi as well. He doesn't want that. He wants to stay in Europe and play Champions League football. But for a man with his clear ability and talent and a very well-known release clause, you have to question why no one's moved for him. Is it going to be one of these late moves in the window? At the moment, it looks like Newcastle United, if they are in for him, will have a free run. But is he the right man? Again, I'm not too sure. I can't say I've watched too much of him. But you know my preference when it comes to signing players. I love a Premier League player. I love someone who's done it in the Premier League. And I know people say value for money, etc., etc. But I love a player who's proven in the top flight of English football. Of course, people say Bruno, Botman, Tonali. But when you look at the price tags, you know, Botman was what, 32? I think Bruno was just about 30 to 40 million. Tonali even at 55. It's not the upper regions that we're talking when it comes to, you know, even Ekitike and Sesko. It's a lot of money for young players who've not got the most prolific record. They've got good records but not prolific, and it is a gamble, but it's always a risk, isn't it? I suppose that's what other people would argue. And I guess if you offer up Sesko or Wissa as the options, the majority of you will take Wissa. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. We know Eddie Howe likes a bit of Premier League experience, but obviously he's proven that he can work with absolutely anyone. And look, it all depends on the sales pitch. There are other players, and you know, I'm a big fan of Thomas David. I keep mentioning that. That's one of the names I keep mentioning. And there's another striker in Belgium as well, Ekitike, who plays for Genk. He scored, I think it was 22 goals last season for Genk. So there are other players which would be cheaper alternatives, but then if I'm promoting Premier League experience, those two don't have it, but less of a risk, maybe at 20-30 million pounds than it is paying 80 million for Sesko. But look, if you've watched him, let me know in the comments how good he is, and if you want him over Wissa, would he excite you if Newcastle managed to get that over the line? And then we look at defenders. Scalvini still very much on the market, and then we've also had reports this afternoon that Newcastle United are targeting 3 centre-backs. Now Scalvini is one of them. The other one is Nicolo Savona of Juventus, and Cesar Terrega at Valencia is the other one on the list. And then Keith Downey, Sky Sports, reports that now that's when Newcastle United are now looking at. For me, you want them working on oldies, and I'm sure they are in the background, because you know it doesn't really matter which deal comes first. The deals for a striker, a centre-back and James Trafford, if they're going to get it done, all have to come at some point. So let's try and get them done as quick as possible. But you know, whatever happens, it's going to be a lot of money spent. I don't think you can write off Mark Gay either. I know that one's gone a little bit quiet, but it has as well with Liverpool's interest. You know, obviously Palace have been stung by that decision from UEFA to kick them out of the Europa League. Some would say unfairly. Where does that leave them in terms of trying to persuade Mark Gay to stay? Would he want to play in the Conference League? Potentially, it's probably all about first team football for him, and he comes to Newcastle United. He'll have Cher, Botman, Burns to rival with. At Palace, he's guaranteed first team football, and in a World Cup World Cup campaign, you know, that's really, really important. And would Palace be happy letting him leave on a free? Probably not. You know, right now, if they sell him, they probably get 40-45 million. And that obviously all helps with PSR and what have you, but then you've got to replace them as well, and that's not cheap. And some of these names Newcastle United I mentioned with on the continent, they'll be ones that Palace will be looking at, no doubt, as well. So Mark Gay, I don't think you can write that off, although Liverpool seem to be at the front of the queue. But what an absolute drama it's been. Absolute drama. Meanwhile, you've got Newcastle over in Austria. They'll be travelling back ahead of that game against Celtic on Saturday, and that's going to be a good test for them. But obviously Eddie Howe's trying to put the players through the paces, and they're working hard. Anthony Langa did media duties today as well, talked about why he was joining the club, and you know, obviously the talented players they've got here. So he's doing that while trying to probably not get distracted by what's going on in the transfer market, but at the same time wanting to make sure that the focus is there, because there's no good Newcastle United starting the season with only Anthony Langa through the door. They need to get these players in. They're seeing other teams strengthen. But look, they're being ambitious. We know they're ambitious, and it's just all about backing and believing in the team there at Newcastle United to get this done. And I think they will. I think all the targets that we've spoken about in terms of position will be signed by Newcastle United. It's just a matter of who, and it's just about the quality really now. Many of you will say that going from Ekitike to Johan Wissa is a downgrade, but as I've explained, I don't think it is. I think there's plenty of talent out there. Again, Ekitike, I always backed the decision of those at St James's Park, but I was, as I say, not overly convinced at his guarantee to be worth this price tag. But don't fear at all. I think it will end up still being a very, very good transfer window. Obviously, Sean Longstaff looks like he's heading to Leeds. That's going to go into the pot as well. Questions now whether Newcastle United need to sign another midfielder, and we've got a video on that with Sam Mulliner to come once the Longstaff deal is done. That was filmed before the Longstaff deal progressed, so just bear that in mind. But we talked about the need for potential replacements for Longstaff in this video, and some interesting names thrown up. But I still think plenty of twists and turns to come in this transfer window, but it's going to be a positive one for Newcastle United by the time it closes. I just want to finish the video by passing our best on from Chronicle Live to the family and friends of Win Davies, who sadly passed away 83. He was a legend, part of that Fairs Cup winning side in 1969. I didn't score bucket loads of goals as Newcastle United's number 9 during that period, but was a very, very talented striker, instrumental in Newcastle lifting the Fairs Cup. So sad news as he's passed away, and I'm sure you'll leave some nice tributes in the comments. Go and read John Gibson's tribute to him on the Chronicle Live. It's wonderfully written, really worth 5 minutes of your time. So yeah, we pass our best on to his family and friends. But I'm going to shoot off now. Enjoy the rest of the week. I don't think I will be back on over the next 10 days, but like I say, there's a couple of pre-recorded videos waiting to go, a really, really good one on the academy, which I'm really excited for you guys to watch and to get involved in the comments. So look out for that sometime towards the end of next week, and the one with Sam Mulliner, like I say, on midfield replacements to come once Sean Longstaff heads to Leeds United. Thank you for tuning in. Hit thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon.